Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and this is Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm Wayne Tuttle, once again your host. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bells, leave a comment if you want to leave a comment. Go to the About section, check out our shirts, Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, Lost Dutchman Mine, Legend of the Superstition Mountains, gray, black, long sleeve, short sleeve. And additionally, check out our website somewhere here, magically appear, hopefully the link to where the website is. Additional stuff you can pick up, the coffee cups, that kind of stuff. Photographs and other things, we'll be doing archival stuff there. So yes, finally the website thing. It took forever, but we'll have that up. That being said and done, moving forward, this is a story that Trevor just mentioned offhand because he always has a list of things. He says, hey, would you talk about this? I read a little about this. Would you talk about this? I said, sure. And so he brought up something about the Lost Dutchman Mine, number 1 and number 2. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that story. Me and Randy Wright were out there a bunch of times, and I was even one of the Tuttles. So I thought, oh, yeah, no problem. So I thought I was going to do what I normally do. So I go out and I grab a couple books just to make sure I got the dates correct, because dates can be fleeting, but I knew it was in a very short time period and span. So I thought I'll get the dates down and make sure the names are correct, even though one of the names is kind of tricky, and which I'll explain here in a few. And I go out and I figure, well, I'm not really finding any success in the books, oddly enough. I went through the hiker's guides, everything with Jack Carlson, everything with Tom Collenborn, Barry Storm. I went through Thomas Glover's books. I went through Jack Sanfelice's books. I'm finding nowhere that nothing mentioning anything about the story. I'm thinking, how the hell do I know so much about this story? So I go out and I figure, well, I'll just pull out the boxes. A little ragged now because I spent about 40 minutes in the garage where it's about 70% humidity and about 105 degrees trying to pull out boxes and go through and pull my file, which is a good sized file. It has a lot of stuff and material concerning the Lost Dutchman Mine and this whole story, and it's got a lot of good newspaper articles in it. So I thought we could throw up a couple scans and stuff during it, but it would also familiarize myself with the exact specific dates when the articles and some of the work was happening. And I couldn't find my file. I went through every single box twice and I could not find the file, and I know what it says on it because it says W.W. Linsby on it, /Linsba, which I'm going to explain in a second. And I was like, wow, that's weird. My file's missing. So I came back in again and started going through books, asking Trevor, where did you even find this reference? He told me it was a passing reference in Ride Through Time. I said, yeah, but I know too much about this. And I know I have the newspaper articles and that stuff, but everybody, Jack Sanfelice has a history with it. It just, why is it not in any index? I'm not finding any reference in any book other than a passing one of Williams Campanile. Well, it's just not there. The only book, in fact, that I found any reference to it in any kind, and it was very brief, was John Burbridge's Arizona's Monuments to Lost Mines, which is a very small pamphlet. John Burbridge worked with Barry Storm, spent a lot of time Dutch hunting back in it. Actually worked with the Legends Adventure group and the Frank Fish map and stuff like that. So there was some pictures and stuff there, but it wasn't giving any of the background of the story, which I'll start explaining now. There's a man named Charles Williams, or Charlie Williams. Most people know the account of Charlie Williams as he's out with his family picnicking. I know it sounds like a lot of stories, but he wanders out, gets lost. They can't find him. They actually go searching for him for a couple days. They finally find him. He's literally half dead, but he has a pocket full of gold nuggets. They bring him in. It's like, well, this guy found this. He says he found him in a cave. There was a bunch of this stuff laying around. He put a bunch in his pocket, came out, but he almost didn't make it. So after he recovers some, they take him out and he wanders around. He's an old vet. He gets turned around, lost all the way around. They can't find anything. Now remember, this is 1935, so you can't actually own gold. So he has to turn the gold over. And then they say it's dental gold. It's some stolen dental gold from something that someone stashed in the mountains. And it's almost like a Victoria Peak government story. And they tell Charlie Williams, you can't have it back. They take his gold away. Charlie Williams is pretty ticked off. And he claims, no, I found it there. This gold was actually really gold. It was nuggets and stuff. And he claims some of it was hand cobbed. And he says they're full of crap. And the story, but it kind of dies out. There's a bunch of articles, and I actually have some of those articles on Charles Williams, of their search for him. They found him, and how they basically say it was dental gold, and the story died out. Number of years later, it gets a little confusing because there's a guy named Walker who'd spent time with Barry Storm. And then there's Charles Williams. He's not Charlie anymore, but he's Charles, same guy. And he's out with a guy named John, I think it's John Halliburg. And they're out in the Needle Canyon area on the south end of Bluff Springs. And Walker supposedly finds some of these old mines, but at the same time, Williams and Halliburg find these mines. Now, Halliburg and Williams find these mines, and they bring it in, and there's actually some newspaper stories on it, and it shows them with what they found. They found an old cave. They ended up bringing in some ore, high-grade gold ore, which, again, nobody knows what happens, and I'm sure it was taken from them because I couldn't find any reference what happened to it. But additionally, they found this old tea kettle, and then a bunch of old knives and some other materials, but they also found a bunch of human bones around the area and in the cave. Nothing really evolves much from the story, which I found odd. But in the case of this is there's a gentleman who comes into the picture whose name is W.W. Linsby or Linsbaugh. Depends what you find. When you find articles, you'll find his name spelled Linsbaugh with an A, Linsby with one or two E's on the end, or Linesby with one or two E's on the end, or Linesbaugh with one A on the end. And it kind of creates a lot of mystery. He also, you'll see that's always referred to as WW, sometimes as William, and when you find his death certificate, you'll find it's WW Linsby, but when you find his voter registration and other things, he's Wallace. Now, it makes you think this guy might be a bit of a shyster, but he was a miner. He bought mining properties. He was a mining engineer, and he basically financed guys that would find something, and if he thought it could be profitable, would go in with them, either buy them out or put in money to establish the claim there. And in the case of this stuff that basically Halliburg and Williams found, he went in. Now, a lot of people believe that was some of Adam Stewart's old diggings. They're located, if you're up in Needle Canyon coming down around the south side, and after the junction coming up out of Barks Canyon, you'll look over, there's a small hill. If you go up on that little hill, you'll always find some pieces of, some nails and some old pieces of wood still. At the time when Linsbaugh or Linsby was up there, they had built actually 6 little 2-man cabins. There'd be up to 12 men working at that site. And that was called Williams Camp. And while some people thought it had something to do with Bill Barkley, I believed it had to do with Linsby because I think he went by William at times. And I've always thought that was it because it was Williams Camp. Because that camp was established, and while it was used for many, many years later by other people, I believe it was established for the Lost Dutchman Mine number 1 and 2, which is just over the ridge. If you continue to go east to the foothill of the Bluff Springs, it's not a great distance, you'll find one of their diggings. So Linsbaugh, whatever you want to call him, WW, he invests in this and starts sending crews out. There's a number of newspaper articles, which I can't find suddenly, and I'm going to have to start digging because I know I had a good folder on it and pictures. They sends guys out there. There's crews up to 6 to 12 men out there working on it at first. They're working 24/7 on the mine digging it out. What has happened is there was a bunch of basic rat holes down below, and they're just north of the site. You'll find there's a kind of a washed out ravine area just to the north side of it. If you go down in there, you'll find where it's all torn up. There's some trees that went over and stuff, and I don't know what it looks like now because I haven't been back there for years, but it was really bad the last time I was out there. And so they realized that stuff was way too unstable, and it was an alluvial and all the problems associated with it. So what Linesbaugh decided to do was, we'll go up the hill here. We're going to intersect those tunnels. They knew about how far they went back. Barry Storm, and I'm pretty sure it's in his book or in some writings of his. Storm, I do remember talked about. He went in, he got some samples. There was very little gold in there, but he did file claims up above them in the area around them, thinking that was part of the Peralta mines. He didn't believe it was the Lost Dutchman, but thought there could be something to all this, and he wanted to file claims around their claims. So Linesbaugh puts this into effect. He's got all these guys working. And in fact, some people say it was Adam Stewart's old cabin, but some people say it was another old cabin down at the Peralta Trailhead. He added on and built a house down there where he and his wife lived. Now, early his wife's Catherine, but when he died, I think it's Marcella or someone like that. So he might have gotten remarried, got divorced and remarried at a certain point. So he builds this house. Now, I know Jack San Felice did talk to either it was the widow or someone else when he first came out to Arizona, and he met with her, because Jack and I sat and talked, and he showed me pictures of some of the old pictures of the house. The house stood there for a long time. He built a house. He was staying at the house. He had other interests around the state he was attending to, but they built a house, and they were staying down there at Peralta, and then he had the groups of men that were going to and from in a camp working up in the Needle Canyon. Now, it's kind of odd and unusual because during this time period, still you couldn't know gold, but he did have a mining interest. He had the claims called the Lost Dutchman 1 and the Lost Dutchman 2. There are newspaper articles, there's photographs of the site, the head frame above the pit. Randy Wright and I went out there a number of different times. We took pictures. The pit had filled in quite a bit. It looked like they were going through solid rock of the mountain. It was just like, I couldn't imagine how tedious that had to be. Made me think a little bit about what people told me about Glenn McGill's digging, where he was going through solid rock. But it probably went down 20 feet, 25 feet of where it was when we saw it. It was filled in a lot. We couldn't see anything or any reason to go in to take a sample. So we blew that off, went around the hill. Now, the first time I'd ever been out those diggings, and I'd been at Williams Camp in the old Spanish, that worn out area, the tunnels, there was 2 open little tunnels. I don't know if there was 2 or 3 originally. One person I knew went back in it, but said it was really sketchy. I was young and I didn't go. When Randy and I went, the whole place just looked like a train wreck, like it had just been ravaged. We saw a couple where we could get through the openings. We started to work our way down there. We realized that was going to be problematic with snakes because there was so much stuff washed down in there. It was just nasty. And then we could smell a skunk really heavy as we got closer to that opening. So we figured there's a skunk down in there. So we decided to take a pass. We talked about it a bit, and we took a bunch of photographs and stuff of the area, measurements, but our intention was to get in there, take some samples for Greg Davis, and we just chose not to that day. Now later I went back by myself, and I went in about 10, 11 feet. It smelled clear. It wasn't very good. Once I got in about, like I said, 8, 10, 11 feet, I realized how shaky and how bad of an idea this was. And while it took me probably only 3 or 4 minutes to get back to a certain degree, I get back in there and it's just like I feel not claustrophobic, but I feel this is a really bad idea. So 3, 4 minutes in, but it probably took me about 15 minutes just to sort of take my toes and my hands and just kind of inch myself, squeeze back out. And it wasn't squeeze, but it was tight. And I got out and thought that was one of the dumbest moves I've ever made because I'm by myself. And Randy couldn't make it that day. And that was just a horrific thing of like, well, that would have been stupid. Nobody would have ever found me. Well, somebody would have found me. Somebody might have dug it out. Well, maybe not now because I can't find any references. I seem to be the last person talking about it again. So that was the last time I've been out there, and it's been many, many years. I want to get Trevor, someone out there, and take a look at it, film a little around it. I never did get the sample, and I'm sure it's got to be literally obliterated. I would warn against it because, again, while it could be old Mexican Spanish mine, and I don't have the exact location, even though another individual did find a cave north of there that had mining tools and stuff many, many, many years later. So they could be correlated. Those guys might have taken everything, and there might have been other mines. But it is an area where there was tons of mining activity, whether it's the 30s, 40s, or even prior that, 50 to 100 years before. And there's a lot to believe in there. Now, John Burbridge was very interested. He claims that Linsby claim jumped, but from what I remember is I actually had material on it that Williams made a partnership deal with Linesby. Linesby would put up the money in the cruise, and then Williams and his partner, Hallenbeck, or whatever his name was, Halleberg, would get a portion. They would get a percentage. So basically this guy would do all the work, and they would be the original claimants. So that's kind of the story on it. It's kind of a mysterious story because to me, you would think it'd be far more well known because the sites are there. Williams Camp's there, but so little's known about that. The next thing is the Lost Dutchman 1 pit is still there. There's photographs of it in operation, and it still exists. It's sitting right there at the base of the mountain. When you find it, you can't miss it because it's a big open pit right there. Secondly, you go to your left, north, facing the pit, and you'll find you can do a drop off and you'll see where those old Mexican rat hole tunnels went back into the mountains. Now there's a whole series of those that went at one time up along the base of Bluff Springs. And like I said, people got gold. In fact, I know that Williams and Hallenberg turned in more gold, some ore and stuff, and that was in the papers equally as well. And I can't remember how many pounds of ore they brought in with gold in it. So there was something producing in that area. Dutchman, it's anybody's guess. Obviously, Linsby really believed in it, but unfortunately, in June of 1941, Linsby, who liked to drink, died from a heart attack and alcoholism while he was up in Winslow, Arizona, working on another mining venture. So he got up to Winslow, he died. That pretty much put it into the crews and everything down in the Lost Dutchman in the canyon, which probably operated for probably 8 months to a year. And then his wife lived at the house, I think, for some time. The house existed. I don't remember it, but people told me it was some of the remains or something of it was still down in there for quite some time. And Jack Sanfelice, I'm going to have to sit with him and talk with Jack and have Jack tell that story, because while I know bits and pieces, Jack did do the interview, and I know Jack talked at quite length about the story. I found it fascinating because it really kind of buys into someone that actually put a lot of money, someone that had a decent reputation and so forth, that actually was very active, and believe that was the Lost Dutchman Mine. But puzzling even more as it is, all my files are gone. Now they have to be somewhere, because I don't think I would have loaned that file out. Could have been, but I really doubt it, because I usually, if I'm going to loan something, just make a copy and give it to someone. But I went through, I was finding stuff on, everybody else, every other file I could think of. In fact, I realized I got to go back through and work on stuff, because I have duplicate files, or not duplicates, but multiple files with the same name on the headings. So I was like, okay, I got to get this stuff cleaned up and do a little better job, because it's going to be a nightmare for somebody someday to try to go through all the material, because there's so much of it, boxes and boxes. So I was like, I got to go through it, but then I'm still puzzled. But yeah, and I don't want to even try to be going through the pictures, because we've had that thing. It's so disappointing when I can't find the pictures, which I got to pull all those crates out and go through all the CDs and the stuff and go through and find all these pictures from the Red Pent Mine and all. But it is an interesting story. So like I said, if you ever get through, you can go around through by Miner's Needle and go up north into Needle Canyon. You'll see on your right a little small hill after you get past and turn the corner and start going north. You're south of Weaver's Needle, you'll see a little hill. And on that hill is where Williams camped. Once you get up there, you'll know it, because there's nails and all kinds of debris and stuff up there. If you just go due east, a little bit northeast of there, you'll find the Lost Dutchman #1, and just north of that, you'll find the other stuff. Randy and Wright and I found a lot of little different things, knives and stuff in that area too. So there was a lot of activity up and down that section of the mountains. Additionally, if you're coming down through Cardiac or one of those way, or Barks Canyon, as you come up and as you join Bluff Springs, the trail there, you literally can just look slightly just to your right, slightly, but it's just a little bit off this way, and you'll see the Williams Camp Hill, and you can go right there and all. And there's a lot of stuff that's washed down from it. I don't know if people have ever metal detected it much, but like I said, we always found a lot of them. There's a lot of prickly pear too, and jumping cactus in there, so be careful, because you pick up a lot of stuff. But it's a really cool area. It's a really nice hike. It's not a hard place or difficult place to get to, but it's very interesting for the amount of work, similar to George Miller's mines, which I think were called the Lost Dutchman Mine claims too. Maybe we'll do a story on that another time. But I hope everybody enjoys that story. I'm kind of disappointed I couldn't find the file, but I had so much in there. There was so many dates and so much on the operation and so many people that worked on that. I found it most surprising that everything I went through to reference Williams Camp, Linsby, and Linsbaugh, everything, I could find nothing. The only thing I really found was Charles Williams about the dental gold story, but he's the same guy later that is with Hallenberg that finds these old Mexican mines again. So, and I couldn't even find the Barry Storm references. The only thing I was able to find, like I said, was in John Burbridge's little pamphlet, and they got the pictures in there, but they're not very clear, distinct pictures. So I don't know if Greg Davis has the original slides or negatives from those photographs. I'll have to look, because it would be nice to get clear and concise photographs of those areas. But I've been back in there. We didn't really find anything on those trips, but everything was in its place of what it was. And you can see why someone would be very interested in dig. Supposedly there was gold there. I don't know anybody that's found any other gold right up in that area, specific area. So, but there's been a lot of artifacts and stuff from all the treasure hunters that were up in there in the late 30s, early 40s for some time being. So there it is again. Linsby's Lost Dutchman Mine. So hope everybody enjoyed that. Hope you hit the website. We want to get some traffic through there. One thing I'm pushing, and I'm saying this because I'm really pushing to, is I know a lot of people want copies of the bark notes. I'm trying to talk to Trevor, putting a link up. And what we'll do is every week at a certain point, we'll put a chapter of the bark notes. And then the next week, put the next chapter. Next week, put the next chapter. So everybody wants a copy. We'll make it available. We'll give everybody a heads up, and then people can go through and take that. I don't want to put the whole notes up, but in pieces we'll put, starting with the first chapter, put the bark notes up over time. I think that's part of the archival project. That would be very nice. If there's no problem with it once we finish, then maybe put the complete setup. The problem is how much space we're using up on the website for everything, because we do want to put up archival film links and stuff like that, as we're still working on those. So hope you enjoyed everything. Hope you enjoy your rest of your week. Hope you enjoyed the live. We'll probably be again live this Friday. Not making promises, but possibly a special guest. Pretty likely a special guest on there live with me. So I hope everybody looks forward to that. Talking all things Lost Dutchman and Dutch hunting and Legend of the Superstition Mountains and stuff like that. So the next time you join us, I'm Wayne Tuttle. You're not. Take care. Have a great rest of the week. And goodbye.